Okay, we're going to get started on Unit 11. We're getting there in this class. I will mention I did open up the final project, and because again, we're already on Unit 11 there. You may want to start looking at that. The first part of the project is an outline due on April 21st there. So I'll just leave it open, and then I think probably like next Tuesday we'll start talking about it a little more detail. But I know some students have been asking about it, so I want to show it there. Basically, you are doing a research paper. You're picking some topic to research and doing some research. Now, it can't just be a normal research paper. It's got to be kind of a scientific study in that it's got to have some action that you complete. So you can't just research self-driving cars and write a report on self-driving cars. You've got to get a self-driving car and drive it around and experiment with different ways of driving a self-driving car. Now you're thinking, I don't have a self-driving car and I can't experiment on it. Well, then that's not you can't do a report on self-driving cars. So you've got to find something that we've covered in this class that you can experiment on, some model, some example, some large language model, something, and you've got to have an hypothesis that if you do it this way, it'll do this way. If you do it this other way, it'll do something else. You have to have a hypothesis. It has to be backed up by some research there, and then you have to try out your example. It can be using, one of our notebooks. It can be using a large language model. It can be using a variety of things, but it's got to be something that you actually kind of use the scientific method on to experiment on and do that. So that's kind of the idea. So you can start thinking of that. Again, we'll deal more with it next week there. So, but this is Unit 11. We're going to go into agents. Last week, we started talking about agents using something called LangChain, where you program, you use like Python, you go out and ask a large language model a question, you get a response back. You can take that response and you can fit it into another template for another prompt and send that out to the same or a different large language model and get the response back and work on that. But basically, it's you're manipulating the prompts and combining prompts and taking the output of one prompt and using it as part of the input of another prompt and sending it back and forth to try to create these agents. It's pretty linear in function, and it's kind of hard to do. So today we're going to look at some automated ways. The first one we're going to look at is something called Crew AI, which is I'm going to click on this, learning resources, and just start. We're going to use that, and it is kind of a framework for building those agents, and so that you don't necessarily have to write all these prompts and stuff. The system will take care of moving messages back and forth and deciding which agent to call next. So you define the agents and the task, and there's a whole framework that then runs those agents around. It uses LangChain underneath it, so it's all LangChain based, but again, you generally don't see it. It's quite powerful. So we're going to use that. So again, we looked at LangChain last week. We're looking at Crew AI this week here. So why don't we look at some of the videos of Crew AI or some of the let's see what happened there. So again, what we're going to work with is we're going to define what we call a crew. So we're going to define some different AI agents. We're going to give some of them tools. Excuse me. And then we're going to give them some tasks. And then we're going to assign agents or groups of agents to different tasks. And then the system will try to process that all through and set that all up. We'll look at a couple different versions of that here. So we'll go through this tutorial in a little bit. I'm going to talk about some of these other systems first, and then we'll end up with that stuff. The other one we're going to kind of dive into a little bit is N8N, which is an open source system for doing this. It, again, is based on LangChain, but it is not so code heavy. You can do a lot of this without code here and use this without code. So I'm just going to show you how that works a little bit here as an example. So I'm going to go to N8N here. And you're welcome to try it out also. I'm going to sign in and use it. Now, one thing you'll see, there's a ton of these open source or these projects out there. There are different versions of how open source they are. Most of them have their code stored on GitHub, and in GitHub you can, it's kind of like views in social media here. So they're bragging here that they have 73,000 people who have starred their source code, their repo, and showing that they are a well-known or lots of people are using this sort of stuff. So again, there are a ton of these startups out there. There's probably thousands of them, and they're all trying to vie to be the next big thing. And so this is one of their arguments for that. And again, I just selected a couple of them that are, I think, a little more well-known. So I'm going to just sign in here. I'm just going to use, I'm going to start. Okay. You can start your free trial here and log in. I think I can, I've already logged in. Let me see if I can just do this link and load that in. Oops, okay, I'm going to sign in. One disappointment thing with N8N was it didn't seem to allow me to do a Google sign-in. Most of the other, a lot of the other systems will just let you do a free sign-in. Also, it only gives me like a 15-day free trial. So it says 12 days left on your N8N trial. And again, I don't think they have a great free level where some of these other companies will have a free level where you can just use them for simple things for free indefinitely, or at least until the startup runs out of their money and closes down or succeeds and starts charging everyone money for that. But I'm just going to show you what this looks like here and how this is kind of a no-code version of things. I can create a project here, and I can create an AI agent here. I can set what input the agent has. So I'm going to send it a chat message. I'm just going to type in something. It'll go to the AI agent, and it can then send the output somewhere else here. Every AI agent has three things tied to it. One is the data model that it's going to use. I mean, the chat model, the large language model, the AI model that's using here. The other one is the memory, what kind of memory it has, what kind of data, where it's storing data. And the other things is a set of tools. And again, we'll see this later on when we get to Crew AI, same sort of stuff. We can add different tools to this sort of stuff. So again, with this AI model, I can configure this. And again, we will do this in code in Crew AI, but here it's done kind of automatically. So here, I'm going to delete this, and I'm just going to add a new chat model. So they have a lot of different chat models available on Anthropic, DeepSeek, Google AI, Minstrel, OpenAI here. So I can go to my Google Gemini chat model here. And again, they want to have a credential. So I've already actually created a credential to their API and pasted in my API key into here for that. And then I select one of their models. And again, Gemini, Google has a lot of different models here. So I can select one of their models. I'm going to do one of these 2.0 light models here and select that. So again, we'll specify the same thing as in code, but here you're doing it actually right more selecting stuff rather than code. So that's kind of their no code, their more drop down box. I'm going to go back to my canvas. Oh, and then, so this is my Gemini model here. There are different ways of doing memory, configuring memory, but generally the one that used most is just some internal memory here. So it will run this chatbot and keep some internal memory as it's running things. So again, the agent is going to probably make multiple queries to the chat system and have to remember it from one time to the other, and it's just going to use some internal memory for that. You can configure some like a database, some other things, some resources that can use for that, but we're not going to do much with that here. Now the tools like this one is a chatbot where I'm supposed to be able to ask it things like, tell me what's on my schedule for Thursday here. So if I try to run this, I haven't used this N8 N too much, but I think I can ask it, what is my calendar like for this Thursday? So again, it is going out to the agent. It is using the large language model to have access to my calendar, and it should try to find out that. And again, it actually didn't work. Can you specify the year of this Thursday? So what is my, I thought the language model would know that calendar like for this Thursday, April 3rd, 225. Let's try that and see if that'll work out better. So you can kind of see it runs the agent, it gets some information on a calendar, sends that to the large language model, sends it. So it has some control. It's doing some stuff automatically. And again, it is then producing some output. Here's an output of, the results of this stuff for Thursday. So that's what I was kind of looking at there. So again, the tools are like here, it's accessing my calendar. I can add other tools here. So again, if you're writing code, you can have it, give it a code tool so it can compile and run code so it can see if it's run. We'll talk about this Pinecone stuff next week and what a vector store is. And there's a number of different vector stores here. We'll talk about those next week when we get to something called RAG here. But again, Airtables, AWS sort of tools, that's Amazon kind of cloud-based tools, a calculator, Cloudflare, CoinGecko to check your Bitcoin prices. Apparently, you might want to do that. So there's a lot of tools here. Again, let's see. There's Git. I think, where's the Google? So here's the Google. So things like Google Analytics, Google Books, Google Calendar, Google Drive, Google Docs. So you can access your Google Docs or your Google Sheets or things like that. I don't know. There should be let me search for mail. There should be a couple mail tools. Yeah, there's a Gmail tool. So you could have it. Let's just add the Gmail tool. So again, we'd have to do some configuration, and I've actually configured, I think, my Gmail here, sort of stuff. And again, you can say what it's going to do, but you can specify, should you always send an email to a certain person? So maybe I always want to send an email to myself. So I'm going to make sure that's hard-coded in here. And maybe I have a subject or not there. And then once that's configured, I can say things like, can you email me a summary of my tasks or what my calendar looks like today or stuff like that? So you can access email and stuff like that. Now, I don't think this can, but I mean, what a lot of social media and other platforms sometimes are doing is using this to automate their social media feed. So if you're an influencer, I don't know if that's the right, if you're a content creator, what's the right term for that? Out there and working on different platforms, you might want to automate posting to your Instagram or your TikTok or things like that. I don't think so. Facebook has oh yeah, they do have access to Facebook's Graph API tool. So that's how you can interact with both Facebook and Instagram here and stuff like that. So again, you could often you would want to be setting up these tools. So maybe it's doing some search of the internet, sending things out, and maybe doing and maybe posting something to a social media account automatically or something like just like it could, and it may be emailing it to you also, stuff like that. So this is the idea and this is just one agent. Now we can connect these agents together here. So let's see, I'm going to add in another agent here. Let's just do so again, I can add in another agent, and then the output of this agent could be sent to this agent, and this agent can work on things. So you can make kind of complex workflows where the different agents work together, or you can have one agent maybe as a supervisor. It can decide what to send to different agents here. I don't know how this works or how they necessarily talk. We'll talk more about Crew AI and how that works. I haven't used that, but here's some examples. So here's a very complex agent workflow from their blog showing that sort of stuff. Here's another workflow, again, receiving a Telegram message, processing it, checking it out, routing that, and then sending that to an AI agent, doing some work, and again, responding to that Telegram message automatically for that, and making calls to your large language model to kind of process that sort of stuff. So again, you can, again, this is called no code, kind of drag and drop these sorts of tools to create these complex interactions. And there are lots of tools in here and templates for adding things here. Now, I'm not going to go into this now. If you want to learn more about this stuff, you have some options. So in the Explore activities, before I've been sending you to some like pre-built tutorials and stuff, but all this agent stuff is so new. There really aren't any great tutorials out there. There are YouTube videos and stuff like that. So what I'm having you do is select one of these agent frameworks that we're going to look at here, and just spend 45 minutes to an hour playing with it, researching it, looking at it there. So again, you can go into N8 and try it out. And again, if you go and look at online, click on your videos, or go to YouTube, or even, whatever your social media app is, and just type it in, there'll be lots of people doing videos on this here. And a lot of these are so new, I just don't know which ones are better than others here. So you can watch some of these videos here and see how it works. So again, just spend some time on one of these options, something other than Crew AI, which is what we'll be spending most of the time on, because that's more of a high code version of this stuff. So that's your Explore activity. Okay, so let's go back. I'm leaving that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these other options too, before, and then return to Crew AI here. And then we'll do stuff with Crew AI. So the main competitor with Crew AI is something called AutoGen. It is from Microsoft, but it is a somewhat open framework here for, again, creating these. It is, again, similar here where we do a lot of stuff in code. So I think if we were to do this, it would look a lot like this. I chose Crew AI because I think it is a little more popular and a little more open than this Microsoft framework here. But AutoGen is a very popular framework here. Some people compare it to LangChain. Some people compare it to like Crew AI. It's kind of like that sort of area. I think last week we started talking about different, what was the term? Amounts of agency, what agentic, an agentic kind of spectrum for these things. And different things were different places on the agentic frame spectrum. So the next two, Zapier and Make, are not so much agent. They'll call themselves agents and they're kind of on that spectrum, but they're really workflow automation tools. Zapier has been around for almost 20 years. It's been around for a long time there as an automation framework. Has anyone used Zapier? Have you heard of Zapier? No one uses? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's just look at Zapier a little bit. So again, Zapier lets you automate things. You create these workflows. Basically, just the idea is that, every time I get this type of email, I want to, every week I get this email asking for this report from this spreadsheet. Every time I get the email, I'm just going to grab a field from that, automatically go out to my spreadsheet, grab that information, put that in an email reply so that I don't have to do that. It takes care of that. Integrates with lots of tools. So again, I can just grab my Google account and continue with that. And so these automations are, of course, called Zaps because that's marketing for you here. And we can create these Zaps to do different things. So I can go to my Zaps and see what kind of Zaps I have. And then I can create a new Zap. And again, this is very much like this. So we have some trigger, some event that's going to trigger our thing, some action, or that I'm going to do with some trigger. So again, I can look at it. So where I've used these with Amazon Alexa. So when I tell Amazon Alexa something, it will run this Zap and it'll do something. So you can set up your own Amazon Alexa actions and stuff like that. It can be something with Google Drive, Google Sheets, something on Slack here, Google Forms. So when this form is filled out, do something for that. So those are my top. I'm just here. I'm going to hit browse all just to see all of these. So again, MailChimp, we're sending Microsoft Outlook, Discord, Trello, all these sorts of stuff you can access. And again, a lot of like we use Salesforce. Salesforce is the customer relationship management system. So if you're in a company and you're doing that, maybe you're using Monday.com for organizing stuff. Maybe you're posting to YouTube or reading YouTube or following someone on YouTube. And when they post something, you're going to post a clone of what they do or something like that, or summarize it and mail it to you, or Facebook. There's all this stuff that you can integrate with. So again, let's say I'm looking at let's say I get a Google form there and I get an event from a Google form. I'm not going to do this all here. and then I want to email it to you. And then again, the action can be like in Gmail. I can send a Gmail to something like that. So you can, and again, you can do multiple items. You can add a new step here to do something else, save this to drive to or whatever, and set up this chain. And it's basically it's again, this isn't what I would call, well, it's very not so agent-like because it's very much a linear sequence of steps. But again, that's what we did with LangChain, but here with this sequence of steps. But this has been around for a while. It doesn't have an LLM necessarily built into it for this. Now, they do have their new agent framework here. Let's see if I can get that to load in. Again, I can start from scratch, or they have a bunch of agents already out there. And so you can kind of see from the templates a lead generation. So if you have some like Salesforce, some place with a bunch of contact information, they can maybe start trying to contact them. A support email agent, an outreach agent, search engine optimization, article generator, a Gmail auto replier, an expense classifier. Say, so they have these. I'm just going to start from scratch just to show you what agent will look like. And again, I can configure this with different activities here. You're gonna, so chat is when I'm actually using it. It works like a chat thing. Configure is how I would configure this here. And I can set up different behaviors that I would want it to do for things. So I can create these behaviors and do it. So I haven't used this much, but again, it's trying to create an agent and connect it together. So again, that's something you can work for. And so that's supposed to tie you into a large language model and move, include all the stuff Zapier can normally do, like send emails, read emails, access Google Docs and spreadsheets and all those other interfaces it has. Make is a similar thing. It's basically, I would say it's a clone of Zapier that started a few years later. It's growing in popularity, and they have a similar system there. So again, you can go to Make. I think you can just log in with your Google account. And sign up. I'm not going to sign up for free here because I have enough free signups for it. And again, I don't know if that's a limited time free thing or if they have a different level of free stuff for it. So again, both of those are more what I call work flow automation tools, Zapier and Make, not so much agent stuff. So let's look at agents. We're going to start with the big ones. Google and OpenAI have both been trying to push in there. Google has their agent space. You can sign up for early access. I don't know who's getting early access. I certainly haven't got early access yet. I signed up for it when it first came out long ago. So I don't know how that's configured. But again, it's still in test mode. And again, you can't even just beta test it. You have to get some idea. But again, they're trying to set up this early access. But again, you can research it. There's a bunch of information. There's people who have access to it that are posting it. And they show a number of videos here about how it's going to work for this, connecting to different tools, doing different stuff. So again, they're trying to push this agent format here. Similarly, OpenAI has their OpenAI agent format. It was originally called Swarm, but now it's called this Agent SDK. And again, build agentic AI apps, lightweight, easy to use package here for this. Again, and a little bit of coding here, where we're coding this in Python. It looks like we're installing this and doing this. And again, this looks to me a fair amount like agent crew AI, which we'll be using here. And again, you can go through this and research this. There's some quick starts that shows how to get this started and how to put it together and view this. So OpenAI is, of course, and Google are big people. Amazon hasn't been as big in the AI space, but they have lots of customers. So they have what are called their Bedrock AI models, but they also give all users access to lots of other models in their different tools here. So you can go and create Amazon Bedrock agents. There's a demo of that. I haven't looked at how this works here, but again, orchestration and execution of multiple step tasks. We'll see that memory retention across that prompt engineering, all this sort of stuff is what we'll see in almost all of the agent platforms for this. I think all three of these are still like Crew AI involving a fair amount of like Python coding. We'll see that today. So I think all of those are for now going to be there. I'm not sure. Again, I haven't seen Google Agent Space and I haven't used Amazon Bedrock, but my feeling is that they'll all be in that space. Now, you may not like to code. So what do you do if you don't want to code and you want to build agents? Well, there's 1,000 startups out there trying to solve that problem for you. I just picked 2 of them. Why did I pick these 2? Probably because they showed up on my TikTok algorithm before anyone else, to tell you the truth. So I don't know how popular these are. Well, I mean, when I search for popular ones, these show up on the list, but I never trust those lists that well because I don't know who's curating those lists, and AI is often just pulling information from these, these lists that these companies are creating. So I'm not sure, but Mind Studio. And again, these are kind of getting to that N8 and stuff where you're creating these agents and browsing these things. They have, this is kind of interesting. They'll create a Chrome extension that'll run off to the side. And so and it'll do it. And they have a video that'll introduce you to this where they'll set up, let's show you this video real quick. Speaking of ads, okay. So again, they're going to try to set up this sort of interface where again, they have some start event, some end event. They're dragging things in across here. They're customizing this all with different areas. And so they're creating a Chrome extension here. See if I can get that. Let's see. Chrome extension that will like take when you're at a YouTube site, it'll create a summary of that YouTube video or stuff like that. Or if you're viewing a PDF, it'll create a summary of that, and it'll run in a Chrome extension to the right. Is one of their main platforms, it looks like there. But again, drag and drop configuration stuff. Similar here with stack.ai. There's a lot of money being poured into these companies. They're trying to set this up and win this market. This is, again, this is last year and this year is a big spot for these companies to try to work on these markets. So again, we go in here, there's an agent builder here. Give it some name. Choose your AI provider and what model we're going to do and get that started. And then again, publish this agent stuff. Now, I'm not seeing again, I haven't watched this, so I'm interested to see if there is much more than just working with prompt engineering with a particular AI or large language model with that. So I do want, so those are some frameworks out there. Again, a lot of this is just what we call kind of Wild West right now. Everyone's creating these models or these interfaces. There's no standardization. No one knows what they're in there. People dumping millions of dollars into these startup companies, trying to get them off the ground. They're burning through their money, and with any luck, they'll be around in 2 years. But a majority of them probably won't be around in 2 years for it. And again, they're competing against these large companies like Google and OpenAI, which are also thinking about trying to form their or generate their own systems here. There's no standardization around now. One thing that I find very interesting to see is this. I said there wasn't any standardization. I actually lied. As of November, there's this model content protocol that's been introduced. It was introduced by one of the big players, Anthropic, and made open source, which is because OpenAI with their Swarm system introduced a similar protocol, but it was not open source. And so just recently, OpenAI said they're going to support this MCP protocol here. And this MCP protocol works under the hood for connecting these agents to these resources here. And that's one of the advantages places like Zapier already has, is they have already programmed these interfaces here, but MCP will allow companies to provide a server or a way to interact with their software or their systems. And with this MCP protocol, we're now seeing a lot of companies kind of configuring this. I'm just going to show you again. One thing I do like is IBM, because again, they're not competing in this market. They are basically selling their services as experts in creating these sorts of systems or integrating these systems all again. So they don't have their own AI model or anything like that, but they're trying to sell this. So I'm going to just open up their video here.
And you need a new host or center to connect your agents to data sources, such as databases or APIs. MCP consists of multiple components. The most important ones are the host, the client, and the server. So let's break it down. At the very top, you would have your MCP host. Your MCP host will include an MCP client, and it will also include multiple clients. The MCP host could be an application such as a chat app. It could also be a code system in your IDE, and much more. The MCP host will connect to an MCP server. It can actually connect to multiple MCP servers as well. It doesn't matter how many MCP servers you connect to your MCP host or client. The MCP hosts and servers will connect over each other through the MCP protocol. The MCP protocol is a transport layer in the middle. Whenever the MCP host or client needs a tool, it's going to connect to the MCP server. The MCP server will then connect with, for example, the database, and it doesn't matter if this is a relational database or an NoSQL database. It can also connect to APIs, and also the API standard doesn't really matter. Finally, it can also connect to data sources, such as a local file type or maybe code. It's especially useful when you're building something like a code system in your IDE. Let's look at an example of how to use MCP in practice. We still have the three components. We would have.
Okay, I'm not gonna talk, but what this does is define this MCP protocol so that companies can, rather than having everyone have their own little API, they can have a centralized, or they can define an MCP host here, and then there's this protocol that's the same so that your system can talk to any of these host providers. You don't need to talk to every API differently, because like nowadays to try to send an email or try to post something to Facebook or something, everyone has an API, but they're all different and they're all horribly, often complicated and hard to get access to and stuff. So this tries to kind of simplify that. So I'm not sure if this is going to be on. It's only been around since November here, but the daily AI Daily Brief, which is of course a trusted source. I don't know what that is, but they just posted that MCP has won the agent tooling war. So there's one person who thinks that. But again, they are supported by Anthropic, which is a big player in this space here. So keep that in mind. And I don't know if your social media app is filled with things like this, but again, when I go on YouTube or things like posts on MCP and stuff like that, and agent stuff pop up on my feed. So if not, you're seeing some other silly thing, you might want to try to push your social media, do some searches for things like this to get some interesting content there. So, okay. Enough on all the other things. That's what are we actually going to do today, Tom? What is Crew AI? So we're going to go to Crew AI here, and we're going to run this notebook. So we're going to do this sample notebook today, and then in the learning activity, we'll do a little more complicated version of this. So this one is just going to show us the basics of Crew AI for this. So again, Crew AI, we're going to define agents, we're going to define tasks, we're going to define tools, we're going to kind of link them together, and then we're going to put that all together in a Crew and tell Crew AI to go do something here. So we're going to try to do that. First, we have to do our install. We have to install some stuff. So I'm going to install a bunch of libraries. So generally, Colab has a lot of stuff installed automatically. So when we did like the different machine learning models and stuff like that, we could just do an include. We didn't have to do what is called a pip, an install of these libraries, because Colab has a bunch of stuff automatically installed, and some different program or Python environments have different things installed. But again, through AI, now we're getting some really specialized stuff, so we have to do some installs here. So we're going to do those installs. Then now once we do those, we'll do our imports of our different things. Some things to note is that we're importing a lot of things from LangChain here, because this is a tool that sits on top of LangChain. Tries to make maybe using LangChain a little easier for this stuff. Then we're going to configure our LLMs here. Again, so we need an API key to access most of our LLMs for us. Some of these are free, some of them we have to pay a fair sum to. A lot of these, will have a certain level, and depending on the model, you'll get different things. Let's just look at, let me go to OpenAI and kind of look at theirs as a sample. I'm just going to go to pricing and see some of their pricing. So what they're doing is this is the price per 1 million tokens. So we pay for input and output. So data token, and again, a token is about a word we can ballpark it there. So about 1 million words as inputs and outputs. And so again, some of these like 4.5, their newest model is $75 and $150 there. So on average about $100 per word going in and out there. Where I've been using 4.0 mini, that's 15 cents per million word and 16 of input and 60 cents for 1 million word of output here. So different models are different amounts. This 03 mini is their new reasoning model. That's a little more expensive here for that. And again, that's just text. if you're doing audio or other things, it can be, there'll be different costs for that. Okay, so we have our different keys set up here. And then, so I'm defining these LLMs, and we're using this LLM is from LangChain. We import it up here. Oh no, that's from Crew AI actually. So it's a way of defining we use a slightly different way of doing it when we did LangChain, but Crew AI kind of tries to create a unified way of defining LLM. You specify what model, you specify your key, or if you store your key in a environmental variable, then it can access it there for that. So you can either specify your API key and your model there. On all of these, I have verbose set to true often, or I guess maybe not all. So it'll print out a lot of stuff so we can see what's going on here. So I have a Hugging Face model. I don't know if that Hugging Face model is actually working. I have a Gemini model. Gemini 2.0 flashlight. I leave access that for free currently. And an OpenAI, we're using 4.0 mini here. Because again, it's relatively inexpensive for that. Once we've got this, we actually just need one of them, and we're going to define a variable called LLM and set it to the right one. So I'm saying LLM is Gemini here. I can use Gemini for free, and so that's why we're using Gemini. You can switch to OpenAI. I get charged, a few cents for OpenAI. So last week I racked up maybe $2 worth of fees from this class. So that's how much I appreciate you, is I'm willing to pay the big money of $1.75 to let you use that. So, but Gemini's free, so you can. But again, you're free to use that. I don't think, the Hugging Face one is currently working there. I just haven't found a model that I can use at Hugging Face inside a collab. Generally, you have to download the model. It's quite big, and we just don't have that much memory to run it inside a little notebook like this, from what I can tell. Okay, so we set up our LLM. Now we're going to define our agents. We're going to just do a single agent and a single task. So here's our agent. We're going to call it our researcher. You're going to find and summarize the latest AI news. So again, agent, we give it a role, kind of a name. We give it a goal, what it's going to do, and we give it a backstory. You are a researcher at a large company. You're responsible for analyzing data and providing insights to the business there. So that's our backstory for this. Now, one note, in Python, you can usually use single quotes or double quotes here. There are some places where you can only use single quotes, but you can also use, if you're going to do multiple lines, you can use these triple quotes. And I find that helpful for things like the backstory. So I'll use a triple quote, and then I can actually use single quotes inside the triple quotes here. So I'm setting verbose to true. So it prints out of, and then the LLM, I'm setting it to the LLM I set up over here. So it's going to use that LLM. So I could say use like LLM OpenAI here, and have this agent use this LLM and have another agent use a different LLM. So I could use these variables and do stuff like that. But for most of our work, we're just going to define one LLM and use that all the time. So that's our agent, kind of our format for an agent here. Now the task, what do I want it to do? So tasks have a description, find and summarize the latest AI news for this week. It has the expected output. I want a bullet list of the summary of the top 5 most important AI news items for the week. And then which agent or agents are going to be working with this. I only have one agent called the research agent. So that's the only agent I have here. So again, I define my task and who's good at doing that task. Now I create a crew. Here's my crew. I list my agents, and I only have one agent. It's called research agent. I list my tasks. I only have one task. I call it task. Maybe I should have called it a better thing than task. Maybe I should have called uh find find news task. So whatever that name is, I'd put that down here as my task. So I name each agent something here, and I list all those in my or all my I list all my agents and all my tasks, and I list them all here. And then I'm setting it verbose to true to print off this. And now the last thing I do is I kick this off, and that gets my crew to do the tasks. And crew AI will do it. So I'm going to start this stuff, execute started. It's thinking. So again, it'll be doing different research. It is going out, finding some research articles. It is saying, oh, well, it keeps saying, well, which of the agents is good? Can I use to doing this? It's going to have to use the research to do everything because it only has a researcher. But generally, the crew AI will be looking and deciding which agent to do stuff and moving stuff from one agent to another and stuff like that. Eventually, the task is completed by this agent, and we're done. And now I can print my results for this stuff. So here's my results. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but this is very old news, Gemini 1.5. I mean, we're at Gemini 2 or at least now. So this is old. I don't know how old that, but Gemini 1.5 has been around for a while. All this stuff is old news because there were no tools. So again, it's just like going to an AI and asking it without being able to search the internet, what are the most, what's the biggest news out there? So if I just go to Chat GPT and let's just say, what am I trying to do? Find and summarize. Okay, I'll try that. And let me give it the next thing. I'm going to add the date. Okay. Now, oh, it's searching the web. So so it is actually searching the web. A lot of these systems, you're supposed to turn on web search, and it realized it should search the web. See if I can go to a older model and do this again. Something that won't search. So now web search is off here. So let's try to do that again. Searching the web too. These systems are just too good. So okay. I can't figure out how to turn off search the web. Sorry. Okay, but if through the API you can't search the web, they don't have access to that stuff. So again, they're just pulling up whatever is from websites which they learned from 2 years ago or something like that. Whenever they were last trained there. So if we want them to actually search the web, we're going to have to add a tool there. So now we're going to bring in some tools. You can define different tools to do it, different things. And again, this is where we start seeing like tools like, do you want to search the internet? Do you want to read a PDF file? Do you want to maybe access your email or access your calendar, stuff like that? Crew AI. So if I do Crew AI tools. Available Crew AI tools. So here's some of them. They can search your local directory, your local folders. They can read files, search text, read PDFs, and things like that. Do some searching on YouTube and things like that. But again, there aren't that many tools that aren't just directly related. So we don't have like Zapier where we can actually read your email or check your calendar here. So Crew AI currently can't do that. And that's one thing we're hoping to see from this new standard is that these sorts of systems can access some more tools for it. So, but we're just going to look at two tools. We're going to look at actually a couple. One is Serper is a tool for searching the internet, gives a lot of these things there. So you need a API key. So I have an API key there, and I just define my Serper tool to search the internet. This is actually EXA lets you actually say, go to this web page, just don't search the internet, but go to this web page and grab information and scrape information from this web page. So like if you're trying to scrape the newest information from like LinkedIn or from property listings or something like that, you could use that. I'm having trouble getting EXA running with the current version of this. So I'm not using that right now there. Crew AI has their built-in web search tool, and one thing that's nice about that is you can specify a website. So I'm just saying, well, let's just look at nvidia.com, and that's the only website we do it. So I have a NVIDIA search tool that'll only search the NVIDIA website. So let's say, like, I just want to search Wikipedia, or I just wanted to search the St. Scholastica website. I could create tools that would only search those websites on there. So I have these individual tools. I can also combine those into general tools. I have an array of tools here. Each tool, I give it a name. I actually refer to the tool up here, and then a description for when you would use this tool. Because Crew AI will look through those descriptions and then select the right tool in the right place to use. Okay, so now I have my tools. I'm going to redefine my agent. I'm going to give it a tool here. So I'm going to give it the general Serper search tool here. And then I'm actually, the description that I'm going to use for my task, I'm going to put in today's date. So here, I can grab today's date in Python by saying date.today. So I'm going to grab that today's date and put it in my task. So now the task, rather than just having a quote there, I'm using this quote that has the date in it here. And again, I create a bullet. The output is create a bullet list summary of the top most important news articles for this week. And then I'm going to use my agent up here. So here's my crew. Kind of boring crew. I have one agent and one task. So, and I'm going to kick that off. So I can run this and I can see it going out, thinking, working. Again, so it does a lot of this for you. And again, this will be more impressive when we get to more complicated crews. It's going to try to delegate or figure out which agents to use to do different tasks. Here it just has one agent and it's just basically doing one task here. And then my results are it's searching the internet and coming up with this bullet list of items. Now, if I change the tools, I'll get different results. So here I'm going to actually just say, well, you're only allowed to search the NVIDIA site, not everywhere in internet. So now I'm going to define that again, run my crew. So it shouldn't be able to search the whole internet. It'll only be able to search NVIDIA's website. Hopefully NVIDIA's website has some crew. So it's, again, all this stuff is about NVIDIA announcements here. And then here's my final results. It's just news from NVIDIA for that. ready to go to more complicated versions. So again, we define one agent. As long as we can give each agent a different name, a different variable, and define a bunch of agents. So we're going to do this here. So we're going to define, this is an example. I think this example actually came from Crew AI at some point. We're going to have three agents come up with a business plan for a startup company that plugs holes in Crocs, you know, the shoes, because you shouldn't have holes. If you're in Minnesota, you don't, in the wintertime, you don't want holes in your Crocs. That lets the snow in. So we want to have some sort of startup that sells us little devices that's going to solve that problem. So we're going to have a different agent. So our marketer is our market research analyst. The goal, find how big a demand for my product is and suggest the widest possible customer base, the backstory, I'm going to leave verbose on. You can also allow delegation, so it can work with other agents. I'm not going to do that right now because we're going to keep this simple. And again, it's using my LLM above. And then I have a technologist. You're a technology expert. Make assessment of how technologically feasible the company is, what type of technologies you need to succeed, and you have some backstory here. We have a business consultant. Again, each of these have different roles, different goals, and different kind of descriptions. So it's important to fill this out because the AI will use those when it's working with the LLMs to specialize the output. So we're going to have three tasks. We have three agents. We're going to give each of them a different task. So the first one is going to analyze the market demand for plugs for holes in Crocs here. The next task is to analyze the technology needed for that. And the third one is to summarize all this information. So someone's going to look at the market demand, someone's going to look at technology, and then the last one's going to combine those together. And so again, each of these have different expected outlook, a detailed report, a report with these 10 bullet items, and then here's our business plan with our goal here. And so here's our crew. We have a marketer, a technologist, and a business consultant, and we have three tasks here. Again, we don't necessarily well, we list them here. Now, here we don't, but here we suggest what agent should be assigned to each task. So if it's clear, and again, which agent or agents could be working on different tasks, you can list those here. But here we don't necessarily do that. Now this process sequential with crews, you can have them work hierarchical so that we can have a manager that will delegate tasks to different ones, collect the response, and then work there. Or you can have sequential. We're going to try to stick with basic sequential stuff. So it's going to do one of the tasks, take the output of that task, pass it to another task, take the output of that, and pass it to another task here. So here, let's just do, I'm going to run this. Run this. So far, no errors. That's good. Run my crew. And now I'm going to kick off my crew. And again, we have a lot of output, but you'll see some of the output. So the technology agent is doing this task for this and doing that. Now the market research agent is completing its task. So here's the technology experts report back on that stuff. Let's see if I can. And again, I have everything set to verbose here. You can have this so it runs basically quiet there, or just gives you a little bit of things. So here's our business development consultant here creating the business plan for this stuff. And then we wrap things up and it says task complete, and we can print off the results here. So here's our results. This is supposed to be done in markup or a language. It probably would be better if I just asked it to generate this in HTML or some format would be a little better display here. But here's my business plan for Croc hole plugs and t-shirts. I don't know where I got the t-shirts from, but apparently our business analysis says we should be selling t-shirts with this sort of stuff. It never hurts to sell t-shirts here. And again, talking about how this works. Okay, so that's how crew AI works. We define crews, we define tasks, we set up our, we define agents, we define tasks, we set up our crew with multiple agents, multiple tasks, and then we get them to work and kick them off and they go out and do some complicated thing. So that's what we're going to look at on Thursday. We'll look at that some more. So Thursday we'll do a more complicated version of that. So one of the things we'll look at is that sometimes we have companies come in here and trying to recruit students here. So we'll set this up. So one of the tasks we'll do is we'll assume that DigiKey, one of our employers, is coming in. We'll know the names of the DigiKey people visiting. We'll have an agent go research the people presenting here, find out information about the company and the people visiting us. And then we'll, as a student, we'll try to create a plan for when we're talking to them, what information, what is the current thing, what current things are happening at DigiKey that we should maybe mention? What are these people interested in? What can we track down on that sort of stuff? We'll still do that on Thursday. I'm going to spend a little time talking about the project now and what the project is, because I think it's rather confusing. And I tried to simplify it a little bit before Thursday, but I know some of you are working on it already here. So I'm trying to make this general. So you're supposed to select a problem and outline the steps to doing this. So something you want an agent to do can be a complicated assignment, a task that you just want to automate, something you do regularly, or just something you just can envision someone doing periodically. So envision some task you'd want to do. Now, you may have to change the scope because not everything is doable with AI. So again, posting things to Facebook is right now hard to do with these systems there. And sometimes, so maybe we could create the post, but we might not be able to actually post it to Facebook. So we might be able to write the post. We can certainly search the internet. We can generate images, stuff like that. So figure out what the task is that you want to do here. A fun one is that if you have some project, something you have to do for one of your classes, just see if you can create an agent that can do that assignment. So that would be fine. It should be a more complicated assignment. Hopefully that would involve multiple steps in multiple agents. Then we want to set up the agent to complete the steps. We want to test out the agent and then write a reflection. Some options here. So you can use LangChain. So what I would suggest, and what I'll try to do is create a default there. But if we go back to last week and we look at LangChain, what we did there in our notebook, we had a couple, we had section 0 here where we did our imports and stuff. And then we had, the first section was to generate a story using AI, and we did that. And then we tried to do it kind of all together more automated and did that in section 2. And then section 3 was create your own chain. So what I would do if I wanted to use LangChain is I would just copy this notebook, make a copy of it. I would probably just delete sections 1 and 2 and go down to section 3 and do this. What is your prompts? How are you going to set this up? And here's my example from class that we did for different things. So you can just go to the final thing. Similar for Crew AI. Here. This week we're going to do, Thursday we're going to do this prep. And again, there'll be section 0 where we'll set stuff up. There'll be section 1. Oh, there's our tool. Section 1 will use Crew AI to prepare for an important meeting. And then section 2 is create your own chain. So on Thursday, we'll do that. What do you want to do? Set up the tools, set up your agents, tasks. So again, you could use this as a starting point for the project and just build on this sort of stuff. So feel free to use either learning activity as starting. But if you don't even like all that coding stuff, feel free to try this out in one of the no code activities. So if you want to try this N8N where we saw where he dragged stuff off and we were able to drag things in, you saw a Zapier where you could just create a Zap. Maybe you don't need a full autonomous agent. Maybe you just need more of a less agentic object that just automates a workflow so that you can do something regularly. So maybe you want to use Zapier or Make, and then you can interact with your Google Calendar or your Google Drive or something like that there. So feel free to do that. And again, you can do an explore activity in one of these areas and then just do a project with that here. We've talked about this Mind Studio or Stack AI. These are other no-code options for these. So you can do that. So feel free to use any of these. Again, some of these aren't available, like Google Agent Space isn't available yet. But I think all the other ones are available for them. So feel free to try that out. So again, I tried to leave this pretty open as far as the project goes. So you define your task, you set up your agent, you test out your agent, and you reflect on how well it did for that. That makes sense? I really think it'll be interesting to see. I think this has the potential of doing more stuff, especially if you remember, we saw systems that were now being able to take control over your computer or your web browsing and stuff like that. And I think that'll be really interesting. Like one of the things I spend a lot of time doing is grading. I would like an assistant to help with my grading so that and I could see it working as a plugin in Chrome, so I can go to Brightspace, bring up the web, the Brightspace, go to a student's assignment, and then ask the, AI to give me an initial grade on it. In the same way now that a lot of physicians now are using AI to give initial reading. So we have we put in a bunch of tests for this patient. We have their health history there. What are some possible prognosis and what are most likely? So the AI agent will do that and we'll have those available to the doctor, so the doctor can look through those and see what, which one, what looks well. So basically an agent is an assistant at your side to help you with different tasks here. I certainly see this a lot in the creative realm, I think, as far as people writing or creating stuff. It'll be interesting to see how that is in different areas. What are your thoughts? Do you think, what tasks do you think AI might be able to do for you in some ways? And what would be required to automate those tasks? Is there stuff that you do all the time that's kind of repetitive there? And what would be required to do that? Yeah, going through your email box and summarizing that, or else pulling out the most important things there. So. We'll get into some of the stuff is just, things you do like, I always think just creating a shopping list, a grocery shopping list, when I use stuff up, but I don't, the AI would need access to like my fridge or I don't know, what tools it would need to be able to do that, stuff. And so that's unclear. I've been thinking I send out these reports, or I have a spreadsheet of jobs, internships. I was wondering if a student could automate that to apply for a job, generate a cover letter for that job, send that out, and generate and attach a resume. But I don't know how uniform the job application websites are. So if you're wanting to do that, how do you interface with the websites? And I don't think there's a generic way. Again, if you're just using like LinkedIn for everything, then you could probably automate that in some ways, or some other website that has the same automation project. Okay, why don't we wrap up for the day? See how you like these AI agents, and we'll do the learning activity on Thursday.